again to Safe Space Talks, Mind Mastery, and we're going to talk about disassociating behaviors. Okay, because in my research, this is so big, vast, but not too many people are familiar with it. So we're going to touch on some behaviors and stuff like that. So disassociating is a mental process of disconnecting from one's thoughts, feelings, memories, or sense of identity. You may feel disconnected from yourself and the world around you. How many of us have felt that? So this is why I'm saying it's vast, it's so convoluted, but we're going to try to give you the best information we can on today. And I can promise you it's going to be through personal experience. Okay. So how do you know when you're disassociating? It's pretty much based on the trauma experience during the period that something major happened to you. So intense stress may trigger a type of disassociating behavior. Let's say on a lower level, more common disassociating may happen when you're very tired, right? And you're foggy, you get brain fog. Also daydreaming, spacing out, or zoning out. Or on a more exaggerated level, it may include acting different or using a different tone of voice. So, that's on the exaggerated level. So, this may include forgetting certain periods of times in your life or events and personal information, even as much as your name. Okay. So, with that being said, I believe I'm no doctor. Okay. But I do have a lot of friends in the entertainment business, and I have witnessed character changes on major levels. And so we have Mr. Wayne Pretlow with me on the line. He's the CEO of ICH. He's a renowned actor. He's a renowned acting coach. I mean, he's going to help us in the entertainment area of how actors really sometimes use that they have to disassociate to kind of get into such characters that we often love, like with Jamie Foxx with Ray, with Will Smith with Ali, with Angela Bassett with Tina. We are like, oh, they really did that. Well, how did they really come into that character? They had to disassociate. So without further ado, my brother, my friend, Wayne Pretlow.
Thank you, Nigeria. It's good to see your face again.
I know. So what's going on, Wayne? Tell
Oh
me.
my gosh. Well, like we were talking about earlier, the strike being what it is,
Yeah.
which is going on for about 4 months, that was just the writer strike, you
Oh,
know. And
right.
then I think we're in 2 months of the actors strike. So, brother had to pick up a little Uber job. So, hence the
Okay.
little
Okay.
fancy fashion statement right
It's
here.
okay. We got to all do what we got to do to survive in these
Absolutely.
times today, period. It's for everybody, not just you actors. You know.
Yes, indeed. It's been, I was up at 6:30 this morning, as I told you. And one of my trips was to LaGuardia Airport. And, I don't usually wake up until 7:30, 8 o'clock.
So
But I
let's
was
go.
trying to test the waters of what this I've only been doing it for 3 days. This is my third
Okay.
day.
Okay.
And driving to the airport, as I said, I was listening to Madam Google, GPS's voice, but I was having an out of body experience. I was
I
driving,
love it. Right. Oh,
I
come
was
on.
driving,
Bring it. Bring it.
and they got there safely, and I remembered their name. The in between points, I don't necessarily,
It's okay. It's okay.
you know. And this topic is, we know it as the psychological term is
Right. Right.
dissociated disorder, but I think on a common um, street terms, we probably know it as out of, like you said, out of body experience, or I another one, I blacked out.
Right. Right. Yeah. I
Is
have done
probably
that.
more of it. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh gosh.
yeah.
Have you put something down in the house and then
Right,
forgot what did you put, it's like, because you're so preoccupied with
right,
another thought,
right,
like you said, or stress. So actors, we do go through it, and to a degree, we have to,
right, right.
you have to, you
Yeah.
know.
So talk about maybe again, I love your personal experience. Like you're driving, but you're not there. And that's really a true testament of disassociating. Um, like, and the fact that you knew. So there's a term called covert where you're aware that you have disassociated from this
Mhm.
whole situation. And then there's an
Come on.
overt where you do not know that you have left the building.
Oh man.
And this is just on this is done because of your stressful situation in regards to your situation as an actor.
Yeah.
But talk about when you had to really get into a role and you might have had to use that. And are y'all taught that in acting class, like how to do that? Or is that just your body or your mind connecting to
That's a good
say,
question.
we have to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thing about acting is you hear people talk about getting into character.
Yes, yes.
I need to get into character is the
That's good.
technical acting term.
Okay.
Um, as I'm teaching actors, uh, and you say I have to get into character, and I say, but what does that mean?
Right.
And playing any character, and you see the roles that I play, they're
Right.
so polar opposite to my personality that you've known for years.
Right.
You
Right.
know, um, typically the roles that I've played are authoritarian roles,
Right.
managers,
Right. Right.
police chiefs,
Right.
etc. And again, my temperament is to laugh and have a good time and
Right. True.
sociable, etc. But to tap into that side of me that is the leader.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I say it's not so much dissociation as much as it is tapping into the psychology of a character, because
Okay.
each character has a psychology or a way they think
Right. That's
that
good.
allows them to get into that particular character's mindset. Um, so it's a process. We're not necessarily taught it in that way because I don't think most acting teachers understand the psychological term of dissociation.
Right. Right.
You
That's
know,
good. That's good.
one can go so deeply into the psychology of a character like Keith Ledger,
Right. Yeah. We all
and
learned about that.
and
Mhm.
that's very that I can speak on that.
Okay. Come on.
I
Yeah.
can speak on that in terms of stage, where for 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours of what the audience sees. But for me, I start getting into character for the show
Mm-hmm.
hours before. I live in New Jersey. It takes me during prep time for a show is 45 minutes just sitting on a bus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I the entire time I'm playing that character out in my head, or mentally preparing for the role that I'm about to play. And then the prep time of half hour before you even start. So for 3.5 hours, my mind is totally somewhere else.
Right.
And
Right.
then after, it can take me a good, oh gosh, to come back to myself, if you
Right.
will,
Yeah.
to get back in my body,
Right.
about 2 hours.
Wow. Wow. And so how are you coming back? Right? We know leaving, you're like, I gotta get into this,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
this is who this person is, this is this character.
Hmm.
And then how is the coming out part for you?
It's exhausting.
Mm.
It's exhausting. How do I come out? Typically, I come out by listening to music,
Okay. Okay.
because it's a lot of music that is separate and apart from period.
Right.
You know, um, I'll listen to music that, I mean, I will listen to some rap, something present day gets me back in my
Right.
body.
Right.
You know,
Right. Right.
praise music gets me back in my
Right.
body.
Right.
You
Right.
know, um, but it's an exhausting process because it's almost as if you've climbed a mountain and you come back down. Going up is exhilarating.
Right, right, right.
You get
Yeah.
that pump, the oxygen is flowing. Coming down is a little bit of work because gravity's pulling on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the bottom where you're at on solid ground, you're on flat ground. And for a few minutes you get the exhilaration, and then it's almost like you just had a sugar crash,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah.
Some people, everybody's different, I think, though.
Yeah. One of the things I've learned while I was, reviewing this is how it is necessary to protect ourselves, right? Our mental state. Like
Mhm,
people who are, say, molested, raped, brutally beat, like in domestic violence, they can disassociate and it will just kind of protect them at that
mhm,
time. And then it protects them from like ruminating
mhm,
on it over and over of what happened.
mhm, mhm,
And I was like, wow. Now I think right now in my days of being challenged, right, with PTSD, right, I doing my research, I found out that I disassociated for, no, I kid you, and it was
yeah.
happening in 3 to 6 months intervals.
Wow.
And my sister can attest to this. I would say, now, predominantly, I'm a neat person, right? My
Uh-huh,
house is
uh-huh,
clean, I'm neat, right?
uh-huh, uh-huh.
But whoever was showing up, right?
That other person.
That other person, she was just dirty, left her clothes wherever, the tub would be dirty, dishes would be in the sink. And
Yeah.
I would, I guess, come back and I'm walking through the house like, who lives here? Who? No, for real. I
No,
kid
I
you
dig
not.
it.
I wish I could have my sister join in because she could tell you the truth. Who is doing this? I asked her. I was like, are you
Mhm,
coming to
mhm.
are you coming to my house and like leaving it a mess? Like I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out for months who was coming in
Wow.
my house,
Wow.
messing it up and leaving it dirty. She's trifling. No, for real. I was like,
Yeah.
yo, who
Yeah.
keeps doing this? And
Yeah.
doing my research, I was like, it was me having an out of body experience.
You need to curse yourself out.
Right. I was like, oh snap, all that long time, it was me all along.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And I realized that it goes misdiagnosed often. I read that it's sometimes they'll just diagnose you as being bipolar, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah. And I was like, okay, you know, but to now realize a full-fledged out-of-body
Yeah.
experience, to know that I had no clue I'm walking around my house leaving it dirty, you know.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
one of my
mhm,
favorite
mhm.
movies is Split. I love that movie. I like watch it like just to
Yeah.
watch
Me
it
too.
with all his personalities.
Me too.
Like I love it. I love it. When he kisses the girl and then he's like, we married, right?
He was amazing in that
He
movie
was.
too.
He's a good actor because he had me like, wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and daydreaming, like I said, on a regular, we could just daydream, zone out, and on an exaggerated level, and mine's was
Mhm,
an exaggerated level, yours is an
mhm,
exaggerated
mhm,
level, because
mhm.
we're on this, we understand that this is happening.
Yeah.
The sad part is when you don't know it's happening,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's amnesia type, and you totally just cannot remember, period.
Mhm, mhm.
So you're in the car, but then you may get out the car and go walking somewhere, and now you don't know where your car is. But
Yeah.
on an exaggerated level, you have totally forgotten, or
Yeah.
forgotten, what school you used to go to.
Mhm.
You may forget, you know
Names
like
of
I said,
streets.
yeah, personal
Mhm.
information,
Hmm.
and on a more exaggerated level, we're talking about, you getting up, going in the room, and we're not talking about I went to the kitchen to get something, now I forgot, right?
Hmm.
Even though
Right.
that's a
Exactly.
part, but a more exaggerated would be that you don't even understand, or on a more exaggerated, hey
Hey,
Toy, on
Hey,
a more
Toy.
hello. Hi.
on a more exaggerated level of just not even remembering what you did yesterday, you
Hmm.
know.
Here's one. What did I eat yesterday?
Right, right,
Knowing what you and the interesting thing about dissociation, and you mentioned that it's one of the causes can be trauma.
right,
We know your story.
right.
Um, and
And so now,
we as a people, okay, we'll break it down to two things. We as a people have experienced trauma
right,
as recently as 3 years ago.
right, right.
And then prior to that, the multiple shootings, the multiple,
Yes,
and seeing yourself
Hmm.
in those images, even though that wasn't you, but the body experiences that trauma in the same kind of way as if it were you.
right, right.
And I don't think that you can live on the planet, but specifically here on this continent, without having experienced being traumatized to the point where you do suffer certain bouts of dissociation. I think everyone does.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I love about just talking about the behavior parts, because as I mentioned, it was so much information, and how how everything um, would connect.
Mhm.
So we here at Safe Space Talks, we talk about it all. We talk about fear. We was talking about cognitive immobility, which has similar situations. We talk about excuse me, all types of different personality disorders, stuff like that. And
Mhm.
with DID, it was like everything kind of coincide a bit, except just that whole part of actually disassociating from your whole entire body
Yeah,
and your thoughts and your
yeah,
sense. And
yeah.
I watched a lady who was giving her testimony, and she
Mhm.
was, the guy was like, "So do you tell people, you have this disorder?" And she was like, "Nah, because it's hard to kind of explain." And she
Right.
said she did have an episode where she has a 3-year old personality inside her, right? And she
Mm.
said, "I'm at the park playing in the sand." She's a grown woman. It's not funny.
Wow.
But I'm playing in the sand wanting to make friends with the other little kids. And the parents is like, what the? And my friend had to say, listen, she's not going to hurt your child. I'm going to get her, but, she's having an episode. And I was like, yo. And so this is why we're doing Safe Space Talks, to tell you this, right? Because y'all know my argument is we cannot continue to dismiss people because they have issues. We cannot continue to just be like, they got issues. You know how I get, right?
Mhm,
We
mhm,
have to
mhm,
address
mhm.
the issues. And as saints and as Christians, we better start becoming the problem solver and not the problem. And I'm gonna
Right.
bring Latoya on in because I know she's gonna bring something different to what we were talking about, just as on the
Really?
behavior level.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Sorry that I logged on late.
It's
So
okay.
I missed the beginning. I don't know how much you've already shared, but thank you guys for tuning in and thank you for having me. And like you said, Nigeria, I think about 75% of the population experiences experiences dissociation, but only 2% will experience a true DID.
Hmm.
So it's
Mm.
very rare,
Yeah, that's yeah.
and it's very misunderstood. And
Mhm.
actually, even within the world of psychiatry, um, there's arguments about even if it's real in the first place. So there are some scientists and some doctors who don't believe in DID, but and probably because it is so rare,
Right.
and so ununderstood, but the
Mhm.
dissociating factor is very common. And like you said, it is very much so linked
To
to
so,
trauma, you
yeah,
know. And so, if I don't know if you talked about, but I know you're familiar with that freeze aspect
yeah,
of the fight or flight system. And so, whenever we're going through whatever trauma that we're going through, we'll either fight or we'll run, right? But
right,
there's sometimes when you are immobile and you can't do anything. And so, as a protective mechanism, your brain just kind of goes somewhere else. And
right,
so, when you experience that as a child, when you're in environments, right, where you have like that complex trauma over and over again, you learn to escape. And
right, right.
so it becomes second nature. And so you could be in a
Mm,
conversation with somebody and you would check out and you'll
right,
completely miss things. And so last week, I was sharing with you when I was in a previous abusive marriage and relationship, my son would talk about different things that happened, like good things, good
right,
memories
right,
that
right.
he wanted to talk about. I was like, Mom, do you remember this? Or, and then my siblings, Toy, do you remember that? And I'm like, no, I don't. And it was disturbing to me. And this is before what I understood, before I understood dissociation, but it was disturbing because my son had these great memories that he
Right.
wanted to talk about, and I
Mhm.
couldn't talk about them because I was completely oblivious. I like it's as if I had never even experienced it. Like I have to this day no recollection at all
Wow.
of the different events that he was talking about. And so that's why I began to kind of study it so that I could understand even in my own life, why are there parts of my childhood that I cannot remember, or why are there parts of my life when I was in that previous abusive relationship that I do not remember? Well, it's
Wow.
because during that time, my brain was protecting me from the current circumstance.
Mhm.
And so, if you think about even brain fog,
Right.
sometimes people will experience brain fog, and then, but brain fog is different from dissociating, right? Brain fog could be coming from a number of things.
Right.
But dissociation, people have issues with memory. They
Right.
they feel spacey. They kind of check out. They don't know. They sometimes you're in a conversation and they've missed half the conversation. It's like,
Mhm. Mhm.
um,
I'm guilty.
can you say that again? Because I was
I'm
somewhere else.
guilty. Right.
I was complete. Listen, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, sis. I was
Right.
I was zoned out.
Yeah.
And then there is the more severe part, like you said, when you are literally having like an outer body kind of experience.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times people who suffer from panic attacks and PTSD
Yeah.
will often experience that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's very difficult sometimes to talk to people who are experiencing it. That can be scary when you
Right.
feel like you're like looking at yourself in a situation and you don't I mean, some people like, am I dead? Like, what's going
Right.
on?
Mhm.
No. Yeah.
It's a scary experience. It's very
Yes.
frightening. And
Yeah.
so, and especially if they've experienced it and you have not,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know. And
Right.
Mhm.
so you've got to just let people know, like, oh, I understand,
Right.
I've never experienced it, but I hear you, because
Mm-hmm.
most people just want to know and understand that somebody hears them. You may not have, the tools to solve it right now, but at least
Right.
can you hear what I'm going
Right.
through? Can you feel,
Right.
and can you empathize with what I'm dealing with here? So it's very common.
Yeah.
And people now will probably start looking at their lives when you're driving and you travel probably like a whole mile or two down a highway and you like, oh, where was I at?
He just said that this morning. He said it today.
It's like, how did I
That
get
was
here?
me.
Yes.
I was telling Nigeria, I just picked up driving for Uber,
Uh-huh.
and in my quest to figure it out, I said, okay, let me get up at 6:30 and just hit the road. But I did get a cup of coffee, but I think I need to go high octane or something. But I had an airplane drop off at LaGuardia, and were it not for Madam GPS, telling me turn left here, turn right there. We got there, and we got
Yeah.
there safely. And I'm back in Bergen County safely.
Right,
The in
right.
between points,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
It
and
happens.
I was mentioning earlier that in my battle with PTSD, I finally realized that I was disassociating. You know, I'm predominantly clean and neat, and months would go, and I guess I
Yeah.
would come back to myself. I'm like, who
Yeah.
lives here? Who dirties
Yes.
my house? And I kept accusing my sister. Literally, I said I
Mm-hmm.
wish she was honest, and I'm like, this, like, who is doing this to my house? And this went on for like 3 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't quick, fast, in a hurry. I struggled. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
thank God she's my sister and just was like, you
Listen,
know,
I'll take you.
I
yeah,
love you. I love you
Yeah, I
anyway.
love you
yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
But it's true. Our behaviors change. Our emotions. Sometimes people become emotionally dull or
yeah,
Mhm.
and so or have a delayed reaction to things. That's
Mm,
another common one.
hmm,
Like
mhm,
you and we've like if you've experienced death,
yeah,
sometimes people have and so and their reaction is delayed. It's like
yeah,
um or something horrible has happened and you will expect someone to react a certain way and then they don't. And it
right,
just like are like glassed over and it's
yeah,
like they're not even there and then they react.
right,
So
right,
that's another form of dissociating behavior.
yeah,
It's very
definitely, yeah,
I
especially,
find it so interesting that it's often misdiagnosed as bipolar
yeah,
because one could even misdiagnose it as schizophrenia, and it's not.
yeah.
right,
Which goes back to split where we were talking about earlier in Nigeria.
yeah, yeah. Um, the thing when I was just researching, actually every other diagnosis was connected to DID, like,
Mm,
schizophrenia, PTSD, not in the sense that if you had one, you had the other, but
mhm,
that again, how would we say,
So the
Latoya?
symptoms overlap.
Right,
is
right,
mm.
is what
right.
yeah so and to be quite honest everything is
I
is
was gonna
is
say, yeah,
um is misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder.
I
I
believe
mean, if
that.
a person has issues with sleep and they may
yeah,
and you tell a provider that oh, I just felt pretty good today, today was a good day, or I felt like I could get more done. I mean, how
Hmm.
that's everybody.
right,
Hmm.
Everybody will
Hmm.
have
right,
good
Hmm.
days and
and
everybody will have bad days. Everybody will have days where they don't feel like doing anything. And
right,
people will
Right.
have days where they feel like they're more productive. But if you are speaking to someone who um I don't know. I'm not going to talk bad about providers, but um bipolar disorder is diagnosed oftentimes is
right,
misdiagnosed. And it's just because people are I think there's a narrative where people want to protect those with bipolar disorder as quickly as possible. And so when they hear it, they want to jump. When they hear
right,
those themes, they want to jump to the diagnosis and get people medicated or whatever to keep them from,
Hmm.
their lives from spiraling, from getting into some trouble and things like that.
right,
But, yeah, everything gets,
yeah,
bipolar gets blamed for
I
everything.
think it's just so part of the cause of not cause, but one of the issues with medicine is that um, finding out, as opposed, we want to treat the symptom
Hmm.
without getting to the root
root,
cause
yeah,
of it.
Yeah.
yeah,
We
Yeah.
as an actor, I call it surface acting versus going deep into character.
Hmm.
mhm,
Hmm.
It's so interesting. It's a very complex um, topic, and I think it's something that does need to be looked into deeper, so that A, you're not misdiagnosing, and B, so people feel heard.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm sitting here at the audience. I'm sure people are sitting in line right now waiting in line, and that moment between being here and there is gone.
Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
And it's common if you think about something like ADHD.
Mhm.
It's very common in
Yeah,
ADHD.
yeah. And
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So one of the things that we have to think about is there's just not a lot of time, you
Right.
know. um Different, like when you're diagnosing people, you've got to have a good history.
Okay.
Mhm.
And to get a good history, you need time. And so there are different models, and some practices will have you see a new patient in 30 minutes. What information can you get in 30 minutes? It's hard to get what you need to get in an hour, to be
Mhm.
perfectly
Mhm.
honest, if you really want to treat patients holistically. That's why a lot of holistic practitioners um have more time, but they
Right,
don't
Mhm.
bill for insurance, of course.
Mhm.
right,
So one of the hindrances is time, to be quite honest. And because within that narrow amount of time, you've got to get vital signs. Oftentimes you got to get paperwork, you got to
right,
you got to get scales and all types of tools, and you've got to get just a lot of background information about their current illness, their
Mhm.
symptoms. And then you got to go into the past psychiatric. Sometimes patients don't know, like they've never been diagnosed with things. So you've got to
Mhm.
be good at hearing, different things that make you, like, for instance, if with ADHD, you would ask patients, so tell me about high school, tell me about elementary. They
mm-hmm,
may not have
Mhm.
been diagnosed with it, but if they struggle to sit still in their seats, or if they struggle with keeping their desk clean, or if they struggle with forgetting their assignments, then you can be
right,
thinking ahead. But you've got to have that conversation, you got to have time to do it.
right, right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I like that we're talking about this because, like I said, the idea is so vast and it was so big that we just wanted to kind of narrow it down to behaviors, symptoms, like we mentioned, talk to somebody about, you know, what you're going through, someone, a confidant, someone you can trust, and just express your feelings. Like I was able to express my feelings with my sister that somebody keep coming in this house and making it dirty, and I don't know who's doing it, and I think it's you, but I don't know. Meanwhile, like
Yeah, and it was you.
separating, like, and I really could not remember.
Hmm.
I really could not remember that
Yeah.
it was me that cooked and left the dishes.
And you think about how
Me.
traumatizing that is.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
traumatizing that can be when I mean, and this is something totally different, but even I had a patient who went through chemo, and in the middle of the night she would get up and she would cook things,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
or she would have conversations with her boyfriend that she completely does not remember at all. And he was like, you said this to me. And she was like, I didn't say anything to you. And I mean, she called me, she emailed me, she did everything, bawling. Like, she was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, this is not me. She kept saying the
Right,
same thing. This is not me.
right, right.
And she was traumatized by not remembering the acts that she had done. So
Yeah,
it's very traumatizing for people. It's very misunderstood. But it kind of sheds some light, and kind of helps. Sometimes you just want an answer. Like, what,
right.
Mhm.
why do I do this? Like, why
Yeah,
can't I just follow along, in
right.
a conversation? They
Yeah,
asked me, what did I learn? I was in class the whole time and didn't learn anything because I was gone. And
yeah.
so now that you've got to do the work,
That's
because
so
at the
good.
root of most of it is trauma. And
Right.
so now,
Right.
number one, it takes time to heal. And then two, sometimes you've got to have therapies that can help you kind of integrate those both sides of the brain.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. It's like, how do you, if you're not really sure that you have dissociative moments, how do you say, okay, I need help? Something's going on. I need help, or I
Yeah.
need to see somebody. I had like, I could tell you, I definitely need therapy after all this been going on.
Yeah.
And just as I was about to, look into it and stuff like that. The pandemic for me
Yeah.
wiped out my insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I think, but how do you know? Okay, I need to see somebody if you're not really sure. You don't even remember you had this situation going on.
I want to,
Yeah.
I want to, you know, when I came home from the hospital,
Hmm.
before you leave the hospital, they ask you your name, who's the president, blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
to see if can leave, whatever. I don't know even why
Hmm.
they asked that, but they asked that. And one particular doctor asked me, he said, "Are you having nightmares?" And I was like, "No." And I really wasn't. And he was like, "Are you feeling anxious?" And I was like, "No." In my mind, I'm like, "Bruh, don't ask me no tricky questions. I'm trying to get home." You know what I'm saying? I've
Hmm.
been here 2 months. I was trying to convince my family to kidnap me out. So anyway, I get released. I come home. Of course, I had to learn how to walk and blah 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 blah. But it wasn't until maybe 7 months later
Wow.
when this onslaught, what I know now is PTSD,
Hmm.
crippled me. That
Hmm.
that that's the best word I could say. It crippled my whole life. Okay. I couldn't, it was like I was scared to go into, I was scared to walk to the bathroom.
Hmm.
I was paranoid about everything. Like I didn't even want to take the garbage out. I didn't want to leave my house. Like this fear and just, it was a lot, you know,
Hmm.
that just really gripped me. Like, and then after that, after weeks or months, because this is what I'm saying, I know I was having some dissociation periods.
Right.
Then I'm in the bed, sleep, and then I think I'm waking up, but when I open my eyes, or I believe I'm in the hospital, I'm back at
Wow.
the hospital. I'm
Hmm.
back at the hospital. So now I am like clinging to the bed, like, oh my God, like, who brought me back here?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just having these experiences. I call one of my friends. I'm like, yo, something's happening to me. And people who know me, I'm strong. I'm good. So she's like,
Hmm.
oh my
Hmm.
God, I'm going to be there. Don't worry. I mean, she's like at the door at 6. I think this happened, I don't know, 3 or 2 in the morning. She's ringing my bell. I'm in the room like this, like, it's all
Wow.
happening. you know,
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I laugh about it. And I always say, I'm thankful I can laugh about it now, because when I tell you it wasn't funny then, it was not funny. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and thank God for good family and friends. And this is why I love Safe Space Talks, because not everybody got that anchor. And like
Right.
you're asking, what do you do? Like, it was because my sister came and visited me. It was because I had visitors that saw a change, and I was able just to call a friend. Like, I don't have
Hmm.
no, listen, when I need some help, I need some help. I ain't got no qualms. I don't have no pride in me about what they gonna think. Mm-mm, mm. I need help. Okay. And I need you to help me. Okay. I don't care who you think I am, what success I've had. I need
Right.
help. And because we're both, Wayne and I, are in entertainment business, y'all stop playing. When you need help, reach out. Because one thing I read in DID is that a person who is struggling with that always attempts suicide.
Mm.
And we all know in entertainment, what are the two death high ratings? Suicide and overdose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you need help, we suggest you reach out to a therapist or your general practitioner and let them know something's going on. So to answer your
100%.
question, is that we do at some point know something's going on, and that
Hmm.
we need to obviously, get some help. Latoya.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Definitely. Sometimes you'll know eventually. And then two, is it disturbing? The main thing though, I would say, if you're having like a lot of memory issues, or
Mm,
a lot of like word block and like feeling brain fog, um depending on the onset, right? If it's abrupt, if it's sudden, then you definitely need to go to your practitioner and be seen, because it could be something else. It could be
Mhm.
something medical. When it comes to psych, you always want to rule out medical stuff first.
Right.
If there are any medical causes, it could be something as simple as vitamin deficiency. It could be lack of
mm,
sleep. We don't realize,
right,
lack of sleep. I'll be talking in circles. Um, it could be not eating, properly. It could be stress. It's probably number one. It could be stress.
right.
Stress plays a
Mm.
toll on your body, on your mind, on your spirit, on everything, right?
Mhm.
Your whole
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
And so sometimes if you're more stressed and you have so much on your mind, it's hard to keep everything, and so
Right.
there's going to be some things that you miss, there's going to be some things you forget, and so that's normal. And then
Right,
as we start aging, we're going to start experiencing that anyway. That's probably the
right.
hardest thing,
Mhm.
as I'm getting older, that I'm dealing with, because when I was in my
You are a
20s.
baby. You need to stop.
I'm
I
a
was gonna
baby
say, don't
compared
mention
to
age.
you.
Let's
I'm
just breeze on right past that one.
but
like, I'm
but
22
I
talking about as
I
I get
wish
older.
when I was 22, I could remember every single thing. So like all the phone numbers, everybody's
Oh,
birthday.
please.
My mind was so sharp. And as I've gotten older,
Uh-huh.
it's not. And I went to the doctor. I did. I was, I'm not embarrassed to say. And he
Right.
was like, "What are you doing here? You're getting older. What do you think?"
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, "Listen, you need to do a CT scan. Send me um, something's going
Make
on
sure
with
I
your
don't have a
brain."
tumor growing somewhere.
Right, right.
Something ain't right. I can't remember stuff. And he just laughed at me,
Yeah, yeah.
So but sometimes it's serious and you don't know. So
That's right.
you should be seen. And then finding a good therapist, because again, trauma most of the time is the root.
Right.
Um, and so we've got to work through some of that stuff. And then certain therapies like neurofeedback is amazing. They're doing like a lot of amazing things now when it comes to the technological advances and stuff in psychiatry. But um, definitely see someone, get an appointment with the therapist, at minimum, but the main thing would be is first rule out medical stuff,
Right,
you
right.
know and that's
You
and,
know,
and you have to see a provider for that. You can't just say, "Oh well, I don't have a tumor," but and
right.
two, don't get so you've got to watch yourself, because
Yes. Yeah.
when you start having these symptoms and then you go on Dr. Google and then you put all these things in your mind, you didn't diagnose yourself with 15 things.
That sounds like my sister.
You stressing yourself out about stuff
Out.
you don't
Right.
even have.
Right, right.
It's so interesting because you mentioned medical. I'm pretty even keeled and don't get angry quickly.
Good.
And I was working at a high stress environment during the housing crisis. And I would have moments where people that knew me for years, they'd known me for years, they were my managers at other places. They noticed that I was acting different,
Mm-hmm.
quick tempered or snippy. Um, Come to find out, I'd gone to the hospital because I had pneumonia and I lived in the hospital. So I see you say Nigeria, get me out of here,
Yeah.
for a month. And they said, how long have you been type 2 diabetic? And I said, I'm not.
Yeah, right, because you didn't
I
know.
had,
Yeah.
but my levels were off, which
Yeah.
was causing mood changes and things
Yeah.
like that.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
I can honestly say there are points when they said you acted, and I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true.
Right. Like you said,
You got to
vitamins, like
rule it
before we
out.
start going into a
Yeah,
whole thing, it could just be one thing or something.
yeah,
Like
Yeah,
one
and
thing
it
that
may not
triggered
even be a
a
dissociating
mental,
behavior or a mental illness at all.
right.
It may
mhm.
be, something like your blood sugar. Definitely, you can have altered mental status. It could be another medication.
That's
Mm,
that's that's key right there.
Yeah,
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 it could be something that you take. It could be a supplement. You know,
yeah,
um, if you're already on a medication and you're taking a supplement, you think that is natural. Everything natural you can't just take. Just because
right,
yeah,
it's natural. You know,
yeah.
um, but some people feel that way. Oh, it's natural. I can take it. No, you need to check with your provider and make sure there's no
right.
contraindications for it,
Mhm, mhm,
and that it's
mhm,
not
mhm, mhm.
interacting with some of the medication that you're already taking. So there are a number of things that could cause some of these same symptoms, and that's why
Right.
being seen by someone first
Yeah,
is going to be key, because then they can direct you where you need to be. If you need another referral, they'll do that. If they
Mhm,
need to do some lifestyle modifications with you, then they'll be able to do that and say, hey, I need you to minimize your stress. I need you to exercise more. I need you to, your vitamin D is low, your iron is low, whatever.
right.
They'll direct you where you need to be, but that's where you start.
Yeah,
That's so interesting because, one of the things that I do almost on a daily basis is meditation.
yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I, I can meditate or I will meditate. It's 12 o'clock now, and my body's telling me now it's time for a nap.
yeah, yeah,
It's time to just kind of shut everything down,
yeah,
because that's what I call, when I'm teaching actors, I'm teaching them you have to come back to center, because a lot of times we can use work, just to a broad spectrum of that, as ways of masking,
yes,
Mm-hmm.
uh, 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 I won't say mental illness, but something being off.
yes,
We use something else to distract ourselves mentally, to
Mm-hmm.
bring us to this place where we feel normal.
Yeah.
And
mm,
one of the things when I'm teaching, when I'm coaching actors, is I start out with mindfulness right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
right, right,
I start out there because it for me it's an opportunity for them to get to know you. You need to, like doctors, you walk into the doctor's office and the first time they see you, they're going for what? What's your baseline?
right.
Mm-hmm.
What's your normal? I learned that from my aunt who's a
Yeah.
nurse. you know. Um, what is your mental baseline?
Yeah.
That is good. That's good. Let me jump in here real
Go
quick
ahead, go ahead.
because I didn't even think about that. Like, I think I know my normal,
Mhm.
but I'm going to investigate what is my own natural or my own baseline. And see, this is what I love.
Yeah.
I love safe space talks because we get to probe and discuss because
Mhm,
we want
mhm.
y'all to know that like Dr. Latoya said, like it's not always a mental illness. It's that we gotta kind of take care of our own self. It could be something we took, something we ate, and not go to Dr. Google and say I got this spot here and oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, I got cancer.
Mhm,
You know.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um, but
A lot
just
of times it's lifestyle.
yeah,
Yeah.
and get your annual checkup. Just get an annual checkup,
Mhm,
and just be one of the things we promote here is like what you said, Wayne, meditation. Learn how to take care of you first, right? We use the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put your oxygen mask on before you can
Mm-hmm.
help anybody else. To both male and female, you're no good to nobody when you're not good to yourself. Close us out, Latoya. You with us?
oh, I think she
And she
froze.
froze. Latoya done froze. Oh,
Oh, she'll be back. There she is. Nope.
all right.
Psych.
All right. So I'm going to close this out. Okay. So listen, thank you so much for listening to us talk about our own personal dissociating bouts and understanding that, it can happen. If it's exaggerated, remember you need to go and see somebody.
Well, thank you guys for joining
Ho-
us.
Hold on a minute. Yeah.
Oh,
So you need to see somebody and not be afraid and don't have pride. If you're having, I love what Dr. Latoya said, your memory is starting to, confuse you, other signs of forgetfulness, sensory, fog, fatigue, just go check. It's okay. It may not be anything. This is what I love. It may not be. We want to encourage you to go see someone, because you know what? It may not be anything. We want you to go check yourself out, because you want to always remember, you always want to go to the doctor to see how well you're doing. It's not, what is it, loom and groom all the time.
mhm,
And
mhm.
early detection for anything is always great. So we love you. We hope to see you next week. We're here Wednesdays, every Wednesday at noon. So thank you, Wayne, for joining us.
Thanks
And,
for having me, Nigeria.
we appreciate you. You're more than welcome to come here anytime.
All
All
right,
right.
thank you very much. Tell Doc I said thank you, and I'll talk to y'all soon.